I'm Laurel Bennett, 34 years old, and on the morning of my wedding, I stood in front of the mirror in my childhood bedroom. Trying to keep my hand steady, I was wearing my grandmother's pearl necklace, the one she left me in her will. I thought I was ready. I'd picked a simple ivory dress, not flashy, but something that felt like me. I was 3 hours away from walking down the aisle and becoming Laurel Walton, and then my phone chimed with a sound I knew too well, one that never brought good news. I shouldn't have looked, but I did, and what I saw changed everything. Before I go any further, let me know where you're listening from in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever stood alone when family should have been there. I grew up in a quiet town outside Knoxville, Tennessee. One of those places where folks waved from their porches and asked about your mama even if they didn't like her. My parents, Helen and Matthew, were the type who believed in appearances above all else. Church on Sunday, country club on Saturday, and no dirty laundry ever aired in public. They had 2 daughters, me and my younger sister Elise. Where I was quiet, bookish, and stubborn, Elise was charm and sunshine and obedient smiles. They called me the serious one. Eventually, it became the difficult one. I left home at 18 with a scholarship to study architecture. That's where I met Blaine. We became friends first, then something more. I loved how steady he was, how he listened without trying to fix me. He ran his own construction company, honest work, hands-on, the kind of job my parents never respected. They didn't hide it either. To them, a contractor was a step below acceptable. A man in a suit, that was more their style. Still, I tried. Every holiday, every phone call, every awkward dinner, I kept hoping they'd soften. That maybe someday they'd look at Blaine and see what I saw. But that morning, 3 hours before I was supposed to marry him, my mother posted a photo of Elise from some charity luncheon. She was wearing a designer dress I recognized immediately. Helen had once bragged it cost more than her monthly mortgage. The caption read, "Proud of the daughter who honors her family." Family. First, hashtag raising them. Right. The comments rolled in like thunder. Aunt Caroline. Some daughters understand loyalty. Cousin Mark glad to see at least one of Helen's girls turned out right. Then there it was, Uncle Dave Laurel always was the difficult one. I felt the phone slip a little in my hand. Ariel, my best friend and maid of honor, knocked gently and came in when I called. She took one look at my face and didn't ask questions. I handed her the phone, and she just said, "Today, really." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. I kept staring at my reflection, not recognizing the woman in the glass. The truth was, somewhere deep down, I'd hoped they'd show up. That despite everything, they'd take their seats in the front row, smile for the camera, maybe even hug Blaine. They didn't, and when Ariel's phone buzzed again, she looked at me and said softly, "Your mom just shared it to Facebook. It's getting worse." She scrolled. I saw more names, people I hadn't heard from in years, publicly shaming me, praising Elise, pretending I was some long-forgotten mistake. Then I saw it. My father had left a comment, "Elise has always been our pride and joy." Some children understand what family means. I sat down on the edge of the bed and felt the old ache settle behind my ribs. They weren't coming. They'd chosen their narrative, perfect daughter, perfect image, and I didn't fit it. Not then, not now. Ariel reached for my hand. "You still want to do this?" she asked gently. I looked up. "Yes," I said, "but I think I'm done pretending." The church bells started ringing down the street. It was time, and as I walked down that aisle to Blaine, I didn't know it yet, but the people who skipped my wedding were about to find out just how difficult their daughter could be. Blaze was already in the kitchen when I got up the next morning. He'd made coffee and stacked the mail neatly on the counter, just like he always did. I was still in my pajamas, my wedding ring catching the light, as I reached for the mug he'd poured for me. There was a kind of stillness in the apartment, the sort that comes after something big when you're not quite ready to step back into regular life. I was still thinking about the way his eyes had lit up when I walked down the aisle, still hearing the way the band had played our song while we danced under those strings of lights. For a little while, everything had felt soft and whole. I reached for the stack of envelopes and paused when I saw the return address on one of them. "From your folks' mortgage company," Blaze said gently. "It was forwarded here." I didn't answer. I just stared at the name printed on the envelope. My hands had gone still. Blaze must have noticed. "Laurel?" he asked. I opened the envelope without speaking. The payment receipt was inside, addressed to me, not my parents. Because for the last 2 years, I'd been the one keeping that house afloat. Not that they ever knew. I made sure of that. "They think the payments just got restructured," I said after a long moment. "Some miracle from the bank after the pension fell apart." I sat down slowly on the edge of a bar stool. Blaze set his coffee down across from me. How much, he asked. $3,000 a month. For 24 months. He was quiet for a while. Then he said, $72,000. I nodded. "They never asked for it," I said. "But they needed it. And I thought maybe if I showed them, I could carry them when they were drowning, maybe they'd finally see me as something more than the one who always made things harder." Blaze leaned forward and rested his arms on the table. He didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix anything, just waited. I opened my laptop and logged into the bank account. The next payment was scheduled for the following week. My finger hovered over the cancel button. "They skipped my wedding," I said, quieter this time. Sat there online, posting about Elise, about family pride, while I was putting on a dress in the room I grew up in. I clicked cancel. Then I opened the notes section connected to the payment. There had never been a memo attached before. But now, I typed funding provided by the difficult daughter. I hit save. Blaze let out a breath through his nose and said nothing. "They'll get the notice in a few days," I said. "And when they call the bank, that's what they'll see." I didn't wait for a reaction. I closed the laptop and stood up. The room was so quiet, I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. My phone buzzed from the counter. A text from Ariel. "How are you feeling today, Mrs. Walton?" I texted back. Like I'm finally free. But I wasn't. Not yet. 3 weeks later, a knock at the door pulled me from a spreadsheet I'd been working on. A man in a postal uniform handed me a certified letter and asked for a signature. "It's addressed to a Matthew Fletcher," he said, but forwarded to this address. The return address read, First National Bank Foreclosure Department. I closed the door with the envelope still in my hands. It was thick. I already knew what was inside. I carried it to the kitchen table, opened it carefully, and laid the pages flat. Final notice of foreclosure. 30 days to bring the mortgage current or face eviction. The amount due was more than just a missed payment. It included fees, penalties, legal processing. Almost $4,000. My phone rang. Blaze again. "Hey," he said, "how's your day?" "Interesting," I said, staring at the letter. He waited. The foreclosure notice came. A long pause. "How do you feel?" I didn't know how to answer that. Like something's shifting. I'm not sure if I feel sick or relieved. "You don't have to do anything," he said quietly. "You can just let it sit." But I'd already pulled out a manila envelope and was printing a copy of the Instagram post from my wedding day. The one with Elise smiling at some fancy luncheon, the caption about raising the right kind of daughter. I circled the words, "honors the family" in red ink, and wrote in the margin, "define honor." Then I folded the printed post and slid it in with the foreclosure notice. I included one of our wedding photos, me and Blaze dancing, laughing her pearls around my neck. Finally, I pulled out a piece of cream stationery, same brand my mother always insisted on for thank you notes, and wrote, "Dear Mom and Dad, thought you might find this interesting reading. Maybe perfect daughters come with deep pockets. Love, your difficult daughter." I sealed the envelope, addressed it to their home, the one I'd been paying for, and walked it straight to the mailbox before I could second-guess myself. The next morning, Ariel called. "Did you see your mom's Facebook?" she asked. "No, I deleted the app." "Why?" "She posted some quote about betrayal and ungrateful children. You got to her." I told her what I'd sent, and for a moment, she didn't say anything. "You really did it," she said finally. My phone rang 6 times that day. Mom, then Dad, then Elise. I didn't pick up. By lunchtime, Ariel called again. "She's crying," she said. "Sandra saw her at brunch. Said your mom looked like she was going to faint when she opened your envelope. Had to leave early, hands shaking. It was hard to picture. My mother never broke in public. She'd rather turn to stone before letting anyone see a crack." But the thing is, I hadn't just sent a foreclosure notice. I'd sent the story they'd worked so hard to bury, and it wasn't done unraveling yet. Because the next call wasn't from a parent or a cousin. It was from Elise. She didn't ask how I was. She just said, "Tatum, what the hell did you send them?" And I said, "The truth." Then I heard her breath catch. "They're freaking out." She sounded like she hadn't slept. "Mom's been crying all morning. Dad locked himself in his office. You know this could ruin everything, right? They already ruined everything. This is about your wedding." "No," I said. "It's about choices." I heard nothing for a moment. Then she asked quietly, "What do you want from them?" "Nothing. That was the point." She said, "They're still your parents." And I said, "Are they?" Then I turned off my phone again. Because whatever happened next, it wasn't mine to fix. It was theirs. The envelope had landed, and I didn't need to hear it from them to know the fallout had started. Ariel's mom, Sandra, was the first to call. She'd been at brunch with my mother when the mail arrived. Ariel put me on speaker, and I listened as Sandra described how my mom had opened the manila envelope at the table, how she'd gone pale, hands trembling so badly she could barely hold her coffee. "She said it was an emergency and left in a rush," Sandra said. But she looked shaken, Laurel. Shaken in a way I've never seen her. I thanked her and hung up. Ariel didn't say anything for a moment. "She's unraveling," she said quietly. That afternoon, I sat at the kitchen table staring out the window. I hadn't turned my phone back on yet. The apartment was quiet, except for the low hum of the fridge and the soft sound of a lawnmower outside. I had the foreclosure copy still spread across the table next to the photo I'd sent, the one of Blaze and me laughing during our first dance. I didn't regret mailing it. I'd done what I needed to do, but the stillness that followed surprised me. Not peace, not closure, just silence. By evening, I turned the phone on. 7 missed calls, 3 voicemails, all from my mother. Then one from Elise. I played hers first. "What did you send them? Mom's been crying all day, and Dad hasn't come out of his office. You're not answering. Please call me." I didn't. I let it sit. The next morning, I went for a walk around the block, just to clear my head. When I got back, Blaze was standing in the kitchen holding his phone. "Check Facebook," he said, handing it to me. It was a post from the neighborhood group we both followed, the kind with lost dog announcements and bake sale flyers. But this one had a photo attached, a piece of paper taped to a front door. Red print, bold lettering, foreclosure notice. The caption read, "Sad to see the house on Maple Street go. Thought the family was doing well." I stared at the image. 43 comments. By lunch, the post had been shared across 3 more local pages. Some people speculated about layoffs. Others mentioned the recent wedding Elise had. A few recalled my dad bragging about his investment success at the country club. Ariel called me later that day. Your mom just posted a response, she said. Wants everyone to know it's a banking issue. I pulled up the post. There it was. Temporary disruption due to processing error. We're working with our legal team to resolve things. Even now, the story had to be controlled. That evening, my phone rang again. This time, I answered. Elise, I said. She didn't say hello. Just, I need to see you. I met her outside my office. She was already in the parking lot, sitting in her car, gripping the steering wheel like it was holding her together. I slid into the passenger seat. What happened? She turned to me, eyes swollen. I confronted Brendan. About the loan, about the jewelry, all of it. I stayed quiet. He didn't even deny it. Said he was trying to protect me. Said I couldn't handle the stress. Her voice cracked. She reached into the back seat and pulled out a tote bag. It was half zipped. Inside were clothes, a folder, and a small framed photo of our grandmother. I left, she said. I'm staying with Aunt Catherine. I looked at her. Really looked. Her makeup was smudged. Her shoulders slumped. She looked like someone who'd finally stopped pretending. What about the baby? I asked. She didn't answer right away, just stared through the windshield. I don't know. I can't think about that yet. She pulled out her phone. There's something I want to do, she said. But I won't, unless you say it's okay. What is it? I want to tell the truth. Online. About what happened. About everything. Elise. No, she cut in. You didn't ask for this. But I've been silent for too long, and I won't raise a child in a house built on lies. That night, Blaze came home with takeout and a strange look on his face. You need to see this, he said, holding out his phone. It was Elise's post. A long one. Honest. Raw. She told the whole story. How Dad lost his pension. How I'd been quietly paying their mortgage for 2 years. She listed the amount, the dates, the sacrifices. She wrote about the wedding, about how our parents skipped it and posted about her instead. And then she wrote one sentence that stopped me cold. Laurel has been the only thing keeping our family afloat, and we treated her like she was disposable. By morning, the post had been shared over 500 times. 3 local news outlets picked it up. Messages started rolling in. Some from old friends, others from strangers. A few family members were angry, calling it an overreaction, but most of them were kind. I was reading through the comments when my phone rang again. Mom. I picked up. Laurel, she said, her voice tight and high. You have to make her take it down. No, she's destroying us. She's telling the truth. We are still your parents. I didn't respond. You don't understand what you've done, she said. Yes, I said. I do. I ended the call and turned the phone off again. Then I walked to the window and looked out across the neighborhood. The sun had just started to set, and even though the storm had only just begun, I knew something had already shifted. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one trying to fix it. The knock came just after 5. I'd barely finished folding laundry when I heard it, a firm, steady rhythm, not rushed, not hesitant. I opened the door and found my Aunt Catherine standing on the front step, holding a manila folder in one hand and her purse in the other. She didn't wait for an invitation, just stepped inside and looked around the apartment like she hadn't been there before. Maybe she hadn't. I thought we should talk, she said. I motioned to the dining table, still cluttered with a few mailers and a glass of water. She set the folder down and sat. I took the seat across from her and waited. I should have said something sooner, she began. But after Elise's post, After all of it, I figured it was time. I didn't say anything, just watched her fingers run over the edge of the folder, slow and deliberate. "I know what you've done for your parents," she said. I knew it before the foreclosure notice, before the social media mess. I knew it the day your mother called me in a panic and told me they were about to lose the house. That was a year ago. I leaned back slightly, letting her words settle. "I told her to tell you the truth," she added. She didn't listen. She opened the folder and slid something across the table. It was a photo, blurry but clear enough. Brendan Elise's husband standing outside a pawn shop with a small white paper bag in his hand. "I followed him," she said quietly. "I wasn't sure at first, but then I saw what he brought in." She reached into her purse and pulled out a second photo. This one was closer, clearer. The pearl necklace. My grandmother's. The same one I wore at the wedding. I asked the clerk. He said the man sold it for cash, no paperwork. I felt something tighten in my chest. I hadn't seen that necklace since the wedding day. I thought I'd left it in my suitcase by mistake. Elise had borrowed it once for a photo shoot years ago. I hadn't thought anything of it at the time. "There's more," Catherine said. "A friend of mine works at the bank. She saw Brendan try to take out a loan using your parents' house as collateral. Forged Matthew's signature. $50,000. I stared at her. "When last week? The only reason it didn't go through was because the house is already in foreclosure." I stood up, paced once across the room, then turned back to her. "Does Elise know I don't think so?" she said. "He's been hiding a lot. Credit cards, debt. He used a second address to open half of it. The weight of it all didn't come crashing down. It settled slow like dust. Every time I thought I'd found the edges of what this family was hiding, something new crept in. My phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Elise. "Can we talk privately?" I showed the screen to Catherine. "She won't believe it coming from me," I said. Catherine nodded. "She might not believe it even if it comes from me," I replied. "Meet me at the park on Elm Street. 1 hour. Catherine stood and gathered the photos. "Laurel," she said, pausing near the door. "I haven't always spoken up when I should have. But I see you now. I see what they've done, and I'm sorry." She left without another word. An hour later, I was sitting on a bench under a wide old elm when I saw Elise walking toward me. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, oversized sweatshirt. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. She sat beside me, arms crossed against the chill in the air. "I wanted to talk," she said quietly. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. For the wedding. For all of it." I nodded, but said nothing. "I know I've been the favorite," she added, "and I let them paint you as difficult because it was easier. But I shouldn't have. I see that now." There was a pause. "I'm pregnant," she said. I looked at her. 8 weeks. I found out a few days ago. I haven't told Brendan. I stayed quiet, waiting. "I don't want to raise a child in this mess," she said. "Everything feels like it's falling apart. Brendan and we're drowning. He hasn't been honest. About the debt. About anything." "How bad is it?" I asked. 40,000. Maybe more. He's been hiding credit cards. He said it was for us, but I don't know what to believe anymore." I watched a couple walk past with a stroller. Elise's gaze followed them. "There's something else," I said. "You need to know." She turned toward me, face open. "Brendan's been pawning family jewelry, including Grandma's necklace. He's been using your parents' house to try and get loans without permission. Forging documents." Her mouth parted slightly, then closed again. Her shoulders pulled tight. "No," she said softly. I have photos. From Catherine. She didn't respond. He tried to pull $50,000 from the house. The only reason it failed is because the foreclosure is already active. She put her hands over her face, her breath catching. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear I didn't. I nodded. She wiped her eyes on her sleeve. What do I do? She asked. I don't know, I said. But it starts with a choice. What choice? You can keep playing the role they gave you, or you can tell the truth. She didn't answer. We sat there for a while in silence. The wind picked up a little, shaking the leaves overhead. I looked over at her, and for the first time in years, she didn't look like the sister who always had the perfect answer. She just looked like someone trying to find her way out. The eviction notice was posted on a Thursday. Bright white paper taped to the front door with red print, and a seal across the bottom. I didn't see it myself. Georgia Walton, the neighbor 2 doors down from my parents, snapped a picture and posted it to the neighborhood Facebook group. The caption read, "Sad to see the house on Maple getting foreclosed." I thought they were doing well. I was at work when Ariel called. She didn't wait for hello. Tate, you need to see this. It's everywhere. What's everywhere? The house. The foreclosure. Someone posted a photo of the notice. People are talking. I pulled up the group on my computer. The photo was already getting attention, 40-something comments, a few dozen shares. By lunch, it had jumped to 2 other community pages. Some folks speculated about medical debt. Others mentioned Elise's wedding. A few remembered how Dad used to brag about his investment portfolio at the country club. Ariel called back an hour later. Your mom just posted, she said. I refreshed the page. There it was, Helen Fletcher commenting on the original thread. This is a temporary situation due to banking errors. We are working with our legal team to resolve it. Thank you for your concern. Banking errors. She still couldn't say it, even now. My phone buzzed again. Dad. I stared at the name for a second, then answered. Laurel, he said, tight and low. You need to fix this. Fix what? This social media circus. Your mother is being humiliated. People are calling us. So was I, on my wedding day. This is different. This is public. So was the post about Elise being the pride of the family. That was a mistake. No, I said calmly. This is karma. I hung up. I tried to get back to work after that, but I kept checking the post. The comments doubled, then tripled. Some were surprised, others angry. A few, mostly women from the neighborhood, posted things like, I always thought there was something off, or I wondered how they managed that Napa trip last fall. At 3, a text came in from Elise. I need to see you. Emergency. She was waiting in her car when I stepped outside my office. Her face was red, her nose raw from crying. I slid into the passenger seat and buckled in. What happened? I told Brendan everything you told me, she said. About the necklace, the loan, the debt. I asked him point blank, and he didn't even try to lie. She handed me a tissue from the console. He said he was doing it to protect me, that the stress would have been too much for me. And then he said, it was your fault, my fault. He said if you hadn't stopped paying the mortgage, none of this would have happened, that you were tearing the family apart out of spite. I waited. I told him he was wrong, she said, that you'd been holding everything together while everyone treated you like you didn't matter. Her hands were shaking. I told him I was ashamed. What did he say to that? He said I was choosing you over him, that I was being manipulated. She swallowed. So I left. You left? I packed a bag and went to Aunt Catherine's. I'm not going back. We sat in silence for a long time. The street outside was quiet. No cars, just the distant hum of cicadas somewhere in the trees. What about the baby? I asked. I don't know yet. I haven't even thought that far. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. I want to tell the truth, she said, publicly, but I need to know if that's okay with you. What do you mean, on Facebook? I want to post what really happened. About Mom and Dad. About the mortgage. About you. I want people to know it wasn't your fault. You don't have to. Yes, I do, she said, firmer now. For me. For this baby. I can't raise a child in a lie. That evening, Blaze came home with a bag of groceries and his phone in his hand. You should see this, he said, holding it out. It was Elise's post. She had tagged no one. Just a long, quiet confession typed out in clear sentences. I need to tell the truth about something. My family's house is in foreclosure, and people are speculating about why. The truth is that my father lost his pension 2 years ago in a bad investment. My sister Laurel has been secretly paying their mortgage ever since $72,000 of her own money with no thanks or recognition. While our parents criticized her life, she was keeping their home afloat. And when she got married 3 weeks ago, they skipped her wedding. They posted about me instead. That same day, Laurel stopped the payments not out of spite, but because she finally realized she deserved better. I let people believe she was difficult when she was the only one holding everything together. I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to finally speak up. It had already been shared 70 times. Dozens of comments followed. Most were kind. Some were stunned. I scrolled slowly, reading each one. Takes strength to tell the truth. Your sister sounds like a good woman. Proud of you for standing up. My phone rang. Mom. I looked at Blaze. Should I answer? He just nodded. That's up to you. I picked up. How could you let her do this? Mom snapped. She's ruining everything. I didn't let her do anything I said. She made a choice. She's destroying our reputation. No. She told the truth. You need to make her take it down. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, I'm done protecting you. You're our daughter. There was a long pause. No, I said, not in the way that matters. Then I hung up. The post kept spreading. By morning, it had crossed 500 shares and made its way to 3 local news blogs. The story had all the ingredients people liked: money, family betrayal. I woke up to 17 missed calls and a stream of messages. A few were angry. Most were not. One from my old college roommate read, "Proud of you. I always knew you were the strong one." At 9 sharp, someone knocked on the door. When I opened it, my parents were standing on the porch. They stood on my doorstep like strangers. My father's shoulders were stiff, like he was trying to hold everything together, and my mother's eyes were red around the edges, though she had makeup on like she'd tried to cover it. Neither of them said anything at first, just stood there with the morning sun at their backs and a silence hanging between us like heavy air before a storm. We need to talk, Dad said, finally. I didn't move. No, I said. We really don't. Please, my mother said. Her voice was thinner than I remembered. We know we messed up, but we're still your parents. Are you? I leaned on the doorframe and looked at them both. Because parents don't skip their daughter's wedding. Parents don't humiliate their child on the day she's putting on a white dress and hoping for a single kind word. Dad's jaw twitched. We didn't know you were paying the mortgage. No, I said. You didn't want to know? He stepped forward. What do you want from us? An apology. Fine. We're sorry. We're sorry we missed your wedding. We're sorry we took you for granted. We're sorry we favored Elise. I almost smiled, but not the kind you give when something's funny. This isn't about an apology, I said. You only came here because people saw the truth, because you got caught. Mom stepped closer. Laurel, we're going to lose everything. The house, our reputation, our friends. You lost me first. I stepped back inside and closed the door. My phone was still buzzing when I picked it up. Elise, I answered. They were just here. I saw their car, she said. Are you okay? They want help. Again, are you going to know? There was a pause. Good, she said. Her voice sounded stronger than it had in days. I filed for divorce this morning. I sat down slowly on the arm of the couch. Elise, he cleaned out our joint account yesterday. Took the last $3,000 and disappeared. Catherine's lawyer thinks he's already out of state. I'm sorry. Don't be. I feel like I'm seeing everything clearly for the first time. She paused. I wanted to ask you something. Would you be the baby's godmother? I know I don't deserve it, but I want my child to know what strength looks like. I closed my eyes. Yes. After we hung up, I stepped outside again. My parents were still on the porch. They'd heard the call. Mom's voice was quiet. Is it true about Brendan? Asked Elise, I said. We have nowhere else to go. You have each other. That's more than you ever gave me. Dad looked up. Fine, but don't expect us to come crawling back when you realize what you've done. I won't. They walked to the car without another word. That night, Ariel came over. She brought Chinese food and a bottle of something cold and bubbly. How are you holding up? She asked, settling into the couch beside me. I don't know. Free, sad, relieved, a little guilty. The guilt will pass. Will it? She looked at me. You gave them everything for 2 years. Your money, your energy, your silence. They gave you nothing but judgment. You don't owe them more. We ate quietly the way old friends do when the worst is over, but the weight still lingers. I looked around the room. The living room I'd furnished with care. The apartment I had chosen without anyone's permission. This space had become my own, and I hadn't realized how much I needed that. I pulled out my phone, opened Facebook one last time. Before deactivating the account, I posted a single photo. Me and Blaze on the dance floor. I was laughing at something he'd said, and he was looking at me like I was the only person in the world. The caption read, "Built my life on love, not lies." Then, I deleted the app. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Elise. I need to see you. I have something to give you. I showed Ariel the message. What do you think she wants? I asked. She shrugged. Only one way to find out. I looked out the window. The skies were gray and low rain just starting to tap against the glass. But inside, I was warm. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to explain why. Elise met me at the park. She was wrapped in a thick gray coat with a scarf that looked hand-knit, maybe by our grandmother years ago. The cold didn't bother her much, not the way it used to. Her face looked different too, calmer, clearer. The circles under her eyes had faded, and her shoulders didn't carry that old tension anymore. She looked like herself again. Maybe for the first time in years. I thought about going to Mom and Dad's, she said, tucking her hands into her pockets. But then I remembered. They're probably still pretending none of this happened. I didn't answer. I just kept walking beside her boots, crunching through dry leaves. She reached into her bag and pulled out a padded envelope. I found this in Brendan's desk. Figured it might matter to you. Inside were copies of checks, some of them written in my name. Others traced back to the mortgage account. There were notes, receipts, even a hand-drawn chart with initials. My initials. Mom's, Dad's, Brendan's. All of it laid out in a trail I hadn't known existed. I think she said softly they planned it together. I stared at the envelope. Planned what I think they knew you were paying it all along. Brendan was handling Dad's taxes last spring, remember? And Mom once mentioned you got some sort of bonus? How else would she know that unless she saw your statements, the chill in the air didn't come from the wind anymore? He told them I said. And they kept taking. She nodded. We sat on the bench by the duck pond, quiet for a long time. Then Elise said, they used us both. Me for what I could give them socially. You for what you could provide financially. I looked at her. And now, I'm done. Later that week, she moved into a rental on the other side of town. A little duplex near the community center, close enough for us to see each other when we wanted, but far enough from our old neighborhood to feel new. I helped her hang curtains one afternoon while Catherine colored at the kitchen table. She wants to go to the Science Museum this weekend, Elise said, balancing on a stepladder. I'd love that, I said. It's been a while. We shared a look. No need to say what we both knew. We were starting over. The next morning, I took the envelope of documents and went to see Caroline, my lawyer. She listened carefully, flipping through the papers with a frown that only deepened as she read. This is more than coincidence, she said. We could open an investigation. Would it hold up? Maybe not in court, she said, but it would make a strong case in mediation, especially if they try to come after you for anything else. I nodded. I don't want them arrested. I just want them out of my life for good. She leaned back in her chair. Then I'll prepare a cease and desist. We'll document the financial manipulation and we'll make it clear that any future contact will be treated as harassment. It was more than I'd expected, but not more than I deserved. That night, Blaze and I made dinner at his place. He'd been staying quiet through most of this, letting me process at my own pace, never pushing. Just showing up, picking up soup when I sounded tired. Sending good morning texts with photos of flowers outside his office. He stirred something on the stove while I set the table. They showed up at the bakery again, he said casually. Who your folks? I turned around. They asked for you. Wanted to talk. I told them you weren't in. They left a card. He handed it to me. A plain envelope, my name written in my father's handwriting, inside a single sheet of paper. We're sorry. We didn't understand how much you were doing. We thought you could handle it. Please come home. I folded the note once, then again, then slipped it into my purse without saying anything. I'm not going, I said finally. I didn't think you would, he said. After dinner, we sat on the porch. The air was cool and smelled faintly of rain. Blaze poured 2 cups of tea and handed me one. I'm proud of you, he said. I didn't say anything, just took a sip and leaned into the quiet. A few days later, Elise and I met again, this time to walk through the old neighborhood. Past the house we grew up in. The curtains were closed. The driveway was empty. They're selling, Elise said. I saw the listing online. Guess the mortgage finally caught up with them. I looked at the house, at the peeling trim and the cracked sidewalk and the porch swing that had always creaked louder in the fall. We could have saved it, I said, if they'd just... I know. We walked on, not talking much, but side by side, the way sisters are meant to be. By the end of the block, I knew what I had to do next. I waited until late spring to make the call. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to feel that peace settle into my chest before I invited the past to sit across from me one last time. The phone rang twice before a woman answered. She sounded older than I remembered, though maybe it was just the distance between us now. I told her who I was, asked if she was still the listing agent on my parents' property. She said she was, and yes, the sale had fallen through. The buyers had walked after the inspection. Foundation issues, roof damage, a lot of deferred maintenance. I made her an offer that afternoon, in cash. Just enough to cover what was owed, and a few repairs, nothing generous, nothing cruel. Fair. the way things should have been from the start. The paperwork moved quickly. By early June, I held the keys in my hand again. Not to move back in. That house had stopped feeling like home years ago. But I wasn't ready to tear it down either. Some things take time to let go of. Elise met me there on closing day. We walked through the empty rooms slowly, our footsteps echoing off bare hardwood and faded walls. The kitchen still smelled faintly of cinnamon. The back bedroom still had the old floral wallpaper we'd helped Dad put up when we were kids. Everything looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just grown. I thought I'd turn it into a transitional home, I told her. For women starting over. Somewhere quiet, safe, with a good roof and working heat. She smiled, tears in her eyes. That's the best thing you could have done with it. We stood on the front porch a while, leaning on the rail where we used to hang holiday lights. Catherine was down on the sidewalk riding a pink scooter in slow loops under the maple tree. She looked up and waved. In that moment, I felt something loosen in me. Not forgiveness exactly, but release. That summer, Blaze and I planted a row of dogwoods at the edge of my yard. He called them our roots, and I didn't roll my eyes like I might have once. It felt right starting something that would grow quietly, steadily, without anyone needing to notice but us. Elise's new job at the community center gave her purpose she hadn't felt in years. And Catherine flourished with the space to be her own person. No judgment. No whispers about family drama. I kept the bakery, but I stopped taking orders on Sundays. Some days were for rest. Some were for the people who never made me prove my worth to earn a seat at the table. As for my parents, I haven't heard from them since the day the house changed hands. No phone calls, no letters, just silence. And in that silence, I found something better than closure. I found peace. Sometimes life doesn't give you a grand apology. Sometimes the people who hurt you never understand what they took. But even so, you can still reclaim what was yours. Your time, your energy, your name. I used to think love had to be earned through loyalty, through sacrifice, through silence. But now I know real love makes room for you. Real family doesn't see you as a resource. It sees you as a person. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you. And if you've ever had to walk away to protect your peace, I hope you know you are not alone. Feel free to share where you're listening from. And if this story spoke to you, I'd be honored if you'd follow along for the next one.